Good afternoon, lords and ladies. It's MedievalMedic again, and we are going to talk about a rather dark subject today. Ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies. Ashes to ashes, all fall down. I know a lot of you are probably familiar with that little old rhyme. Well, that actually comes back from my time, back in the 14th century, and it referred back to the Black Plague. Alright, because what you hear about in that rhyme, it was actually some of the symptoms that the folks back then experienced. The Black Plague was probably the most horrendous event that occurred during the Middle Ages. It went on from 1347 to 1351. And during its time, it wiped out about 30% of all people in Europe. About 25 million people died. Alright, it started back actually even further than that. It started back in the 1200s in Asia. They were constantly getting wiped out by the Black Plague. And then Genghis Khan, the ruler of the largest kingdom to ever exist on Earth, actually succeeded in making a trade route from Asia to the Middle East and then on to Europe, and that's how it passed. Because one day, back in 1347, a ship full of black rats landed in Sicily. And those rats then spread throughout Europe with the fleas. The fleas carried the bacteria, and the rest is history, unfortunately. Once you got bit, many times, most people were dead within 12 hours of this. They would get these little buboes that appeared all over their body. They were swollen black lymph glands, hence the term the Black Plague. Alright, so there was a time just before the plague started. If you had been aware, you would have known that as you walked down the streets, every fourth person you saw would be dead within 3 years. That's how devastating the plague was. It, again, wiped out most of Europe. But what came from it was pretty much the end of the feudal system. Before the Black Plague, people were ruled by the nobles and the nobles by the church. Well, people began to notice during the Black Plague that the rich and poor, the religious and the not so religious, all perished from the same plague, so the church lost its grip and the nobles did as well, because so many people died. There were times you could walk through the villages and half the village was dead. Half of them were gone, literally within days of being exposed to the plague. So not only did people die from the plague, they died from starvation because there was no one to till the fields anymore. So feudalism died, and all of a sudden nobles were paying people to till the fields. Alright, so the Black Plague. It was a massive bacterial infection. Some think it was viral, but it was mostly bacterial, I think. I remember I was there, and some of the two most important things that you kind of noticed back then was the smell. There were thousands and thousands of dead bodies between the villages. So what you had was a group of people running around called the Bassinis. The Bassinis that stood for the Brotherhood of the Grave Diggers, or the Grave Keepers. They were a rowdy group of people who would ride from village to village, and they would pillage, and they would rob the plague victims' homes, and then they would end up charging the family of the plague victims a lot of money just to get rid of the bodies, but they would do that. Now, one of the biggest problems they had during the Black Plague was the reason it traveled so fast was because hygiene was pretty bad back then. Yeah, you've heard about people taking baths once a year. Well, it's not actually what happened. People did take baths more often, but they were pretty dirty compared to today as far as their diets. They were malnourished. They weren't able to maintain it. And even the rich ate such poor diets, eating heavy in the meats and the cheeses and butters. Their bodies couldn't withstand the plague. So what did they do for it back then? Well, one thing that was interesting was you found a group of doctors started going from village to village called the plague doctors. And they wore these very interesting pointy beak masks because they believed that they would stuff the mask full of herbs, aromatic herbs like lavender and such, and they would breathe those, and they thought that would protect them from the plague. Well, sometimes it did, because one of the most successful groups of people that survived the Black Plague was the story of the 4 thieves. Actually, it was a true story. There were 4 thieves, and what they would do is they would go from village to village robbing the bodies. Nobody went to touch the bodies, because if you did, you'd get the plague. But these 4 thieves never got the plague. They went from village to village robbing and pillaging, and they never got sick. Until finally one day, the King of France heard about this. Well, robbing bodies was quite illegal, and you would be hanged for it. So the king searched for them, found them, and captured them, and took them back to the castle. and said, if you don't tell me how you survived the plague, I'm going to hang every single one of you. Well, in lieu of being hung, they decided to go ahead and tell how they did it. And to this day, we know of it called the 4 Thieves vinegar. That vinegar consisted of sage and rosemary and lavender, aromatic herbs that seemed to help. But what most people didn't realize is it also had garlic in it. Garlic is an amazing, amazing antibiotic, and it's something we can do to this day. All right, garlic, today it's actually called, it's nicknamed the Russian penicillin, because garlic actually has 35 sulfur compounds in it. That's what a lot of antibiotics have in it, but while you get allergies to antibiotics, you don't get allergies to garlic. And it is a medical fact. 3 to 5 cloves of garlic is the equivalent to an adult dose of penicillin. It actually works just as well. It does not wipe out all the beneficial microflora in your intestinal tract. So it's a very safe thing to do today. All right. So garlic was a wonderful thing that they used back then. To this day we use it. We know that it works against infection. Because today the country is still ravaged by infections, just different kinds throughout the United States. One of the greatest infections going on now is Lyme disease. Lyme disease is something like the new Black Plague, the new pandemic. There are over 300,000 new cases of Lyme every year in the United States. There's only 50,000 new cases of HIV. There's 6 times more Lyme, and Lyme is bacterial. All right, so today we can use garlic. Another great herb that we can use for infection that works wonderfully is echinacea. Echinacea is a fantastic herb to use today. Very safe, cannot overdose on it. Echinacea works because it fools the body into thinking it's been poisoned. All right, well, the body's not been poisoned, but the body thinks it has, and it causes it to ramp up its immune system. But the problem with echinacea is a lot of people use it all winter long thinking that they're using a great supplement. It doesn't work that way. Echinacea, again, makes the body think it's a poison. Well, the body, after about 3 to 5 days, goes, I'm not being poisoned, and it stops to work. All right, so what you have to do is after about 3 to 5 days, quit using echinacea for a few days, then go back to it. The body literally has forgotten that it was not a poison. It thinks it's a poison again, and it starts working again. So you have to take breaks when you use echinacea. Another great herb is golden seal, a wonderful antiviral, and it will kill bacteria as well. We've used it very successfully in our medical practice as well. All right, another wonderful herb is cat's claw. All right, cat's claw is a fantastic herb to use against bacteria. We've even used it very successfully in helping to wipe out the Lyme bacteria. So something to consider using these herbs. Now, very often people get something very common, it's strep throat. All right, very common nowadays, but it can turn into something quite severe if not taken care of. Well, here's a very easy treatment that we have seen work many times in the past. It's something that you can do at home. All right, just like we did back in the 14th century, you can do it now. And that is a tablespoon of raw honey, 3 crushed cloves of garlic. You know, there's an old saying that garlic works about curing sick people because you smell so bad, it keeps the sick people away from you. Well, it does actually work, and back in our day we called it the stinky rose, and today they still call it the same thing. So a tablespoon of raw honey, 3 crushed cloves of garlic, and just a pinch of cayenne. Cayenne actually brings blood to the area when it touches something. That's why it gets so hot. Mix it all together in a spoon, swallow it, don't chase it, don't drink your mead, don't drink anything for about an hour, and it can help kill the bacteria and viral infections that are in the throat. I've seen it cure whole families overnight, and it's something you can do over and over and over again if you need to. So it's a wonderful, easy cure for many issues of these kind of matters. All right, so that takes care of those. All right, so in the future, just remember there are things that you can do for infection. If you look down at the link in our description, you will see a link to our website. At that website, it has a resource page. On there, there's so much free help that you can look at for things that you can do at home. All right? Well, before we go, I have a little challenge for all of you. Because I am the medieval medic, I still live in the 1400s, so if you'd like to visit though. So I've got a little challenge for you. Got a little riddle from the 1400s. I'd like to see if any of you can solve it. If you can, please post in the comments. and whoever solves it, I will mention you in the next video next week. So here you go. Let's see if you can figure this out. I have a heart that never beats. I have a home, but I never sleep. I can take a man's house and build another's, and love to play games with many of my brothers. I am a king among fools. Who am I? So go ahead and think about it, see if you can solve that, and if you can, put it in the comment lines and I'll tell your story next time. Alright? Until then, lords and ladies, it was a pleasure talking to all of you, and you have a most blessed and welcome day.